Good morning, good morning. Let's give a great round of applause for such a beautiful, beautiful day. Amen. My name is Peggie Miller, as was stated. I am CEO of P&P Enterprise, and under that, back in 2000, I just felt that being an aggressive woman, I felt like I was in the background. I'm like, I want to be seen too, like the femme girls. Everyone say, I want to show off my wares and my style, because I said, there is nothing more beautiful than an aggressive woman in a suit with some funky shoes. So that started, and I teamed up with my sister from another mother here, and with her fashion and style, and we brought on new Millenium Butch fashion show, which now we gave shows all around Newark. It was well received. They came from all over for our first show, and I was so elated because it was a sold out show that we had to turn people away. They were, just so excited to see aggressive women in their style, and it was just fantastic. So with that, we have been moving forward and doing a lot of things for the aggressive woman, not only showing exactly our style and what we have, but we're trying to move to other levels. We came out with a magazine right now that we're doing, NMB Magazine, which we have. And also we have coming forth, we're getting ready for our second table book. What you're going to see later, once we get finished this, and I'm going to let my partner here speak, you're going to see some footage of what was captured from my great New Millennium Butch models. They are wonderful, and I just wanted that to be captured in a book, a table book that would always be there, something that will always be seen. And so that's currently what we're doing now. Moving forward in 2012, we're working on a documentary to document everything that we have done from 2000 and moving forward, just to hold this footage, because to me, it is important. This is who I am. I stand in my truth. I am an aggressive woman, and no longer do I want to be in the background. I want to be seen, respected, and loved for who I am. And also, I want to just give one prop before I turn it over to a great partner, Mickey Braden, who's currently doing an off-Broadway production of The Devil's Music. Please stand up, Mickey. She was been with me through this at St. Luke's Theater in New York. So if you have some time, check it out. And Jay, take it away.
I just want to add that NMB, or New Millennium Butch, as the brand is, so when you hear NMB, that's what we're referring to, is more than just a look good, feel better type of thing. What we have created is a space for masculine identified lesbians, not only to be recognized, but to uplift, support, and mentor not only one another, but the upcoming generation. So as we move forward, it is our intention to work in the community as mentors for those coming underneath us, to create an environment of information and education and support, not just for the MILs, but for everyone. I think that there is a need in the community for some education, if you will, on who we are and who we are not. So having said that, the images that you will see mostly are of our African American sisters that are part of our troupe. I want to say in this forum that we are looking for more people to represent the community in a diversity of ethnicities. So I am the person that you need to see. If you feel like you can stretch your stuff, want to stretch your stuff, want to be introduced to doing something new, please see me afterwards. Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Because we are beautiful.
Beautiful.
Good morning. My name is Tim Stewart-Winter, and I teach history and LGBT studies here at Rutgers Newark. I want to give a quick shout out to my students in Introduction to LGBT Studies, many of whom are here. And without further ado, let's get started. So this is the panel on the middle generation.
I'll be in the middle. Thank you.
So we have June, Jae, Jae, Bernie, Bernard, and Kitab. So maybe we could start off by having you each talk a little bit about your childhood and teenage years and what those were like for you, and how you first came to Newark, if you came from somewhere else.
Sorry?
Let's start here.
Well, I'm a virtual lifelong Newark resident. I was born and raised here in the West Ward. So I grew up with my mother, my father, my two siblings. My grandmother lived upstairs, and my grandfather did as well. My aunt lived down the street, so my family, my close family was really, we were all really close in proximity and kind of growing up. So I grew up, I pretty much, my family knew that I was gonna be gay when I was really young because I would run around with a towel on my head or put my pajama bottoms as my hair and the tops as my little skirt, or that kind of stuff. I would play my mom's, her clothes and her heels and all that. But I was a playful kid. I was a precocious kid. I, was a colorful character, as I still am. But I had a really fun upbringing, I must say. My parents were around, traveled around. Well, we were always out and about. We did a lot of family activities. But from a young age, I was always exposed to openly gay people. My aunt always kind of had a gaggle of gays around her. She was a self-proclaimed hag. So I always had a real life view of what gay people looked like, how they acted, who they were, and it was never a foreign concept. It was never like bad. It was never, we shouldn't be like that. They were always fun, cool people to be around, and I always kind of admired them. And so, although I had these feminine tendencies as a child, although it was cool to know them and be around them, it wasn't necessarily cool to be gay. So that's not how I identified. And I didn't feel that I was gay, really. I just had these ways about me. I wasn't necessarily attracted to boys at a young age either. I just had these kind of girly ways. So my teenage and my childhood, elementary and teenage years were, regular. I can't say that I grew up getting teased or bullied or anything. And even though there was always some kind of buzz growing up in school if I was gay or not, it didn't detract from being popular or having friends or anything like that. So I had a really positive experience growing up. And so childhood and teenage years were formative. They were good, I must say.
Wow. Well, I was born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri, so like Marge, I'm from the Midwest. Came to Newark, first go round in 1993, second go round in 2003. So I'll roll the clock back. My childhood, born and raised in St. Louis, as I said, product of Catholic school upbringing. From K all the way through 12. Similar to Marge, I went to an all-girls school from 9th grade all the way through 12th grade. And I just wish I knew then what I know now. I was in heaven too, just didn't know it. So I'm also a second-generation lesbian. I feel there's not enough conversation around, second generation gay people in general. But my upbringing was sort of okay. You know, I was really confused as to why, you know, after my mom was divorced, there was, you know, maybe 1 or 2 roommates that kind of hung around just a little too long. And, you know, so it's like, you know, U-Haul syndrome, you know, they'd come, the kids would come, you know, and like we were together for 10 years. So my mom and her partner, and my mom who is not out, yeah, so like they were there for 10 years. So for 10 years, I had to explain to people, like, where's your dad? Who are these other kids? You know, who are they to you? So it was a little confusing. And it wasn't until after I came into my own sexual identity in my late to mid 20s, after being married to a man, having a child, that I began to question. You know, now I'm looking at my life and comparing it to how I grew up. Unfortunately, my mother didn't have the answers because, you know, she was from an older generation where, you know, being gay was not discussed. It was something you just did. You know, you were that way. You know, you had Johnny, cousin Johnny, who, you know, wore his pink tennis shoes. And, you know, that was his way of identifying, as noted in the earlier panel. So pretty much, you know, she was not comfortable with me coming out, so to speak. You know, I was very girly. You know, we had the Peter Pan collars, you know, uniform, blue and white. Kind of sort of what I'm dressed in today, minus the shirt. But it was just, it was a horrifying experience for me because I felt alone. I felt that, you know, because I married this man, had a child, that somehow, somewhere, I was making a mistake. And, you know, sacrifices were made in that choice to be out, that choice to be who I am today. First experience of gay bashing actually came from my mother. You know, driving my car, and when I came out, I mean, I came out. I mean, it was, you know, I had shoulder-length hair, that was gone. I got a hat that said "Dyke Bitch" on the front of it. You know, I had rainbow stickers on everything I could possibly own, and this is at 27 years of age. So my mother, who's very conservative, very, just like you act, but you don't let anybody know. You have your girlfriend, but she's on the side somewhere, minding her business, no PDA, no nothing. So yeah, so it wasn't a pleasant experience. And then I had to deal with the whole heterosexism portion of it because I then got divorced and had to deal with the judicial system and taking away my child, because I got married in the state of Florida, taking away my child because of being a lesbian, and it is on the divorce decree. So, you know, and that's how I came to Newark. So basically, you know, married in Florida, you know, my mom saw me raising this 2-year-old child by myself as my husband went out to sea. And, you know, I was here. And, you know, I met some really great people. The first go round in 1993, you know, my sister who models, we auditioned for MTV The Grind, and I actually ended up getting picked and she did not. It was actually her audition. And that's how I kind of came into Newark. I met this wonderful person, Anthony Wiggins, who, if anybody goes to the party at the Coffee Cave later, you'll meet him. And he kind of introduced me to all of the Newark places to be, Zanzibar, you know, which was and that's where all the gay kids hung out and partied. So that's how I got here.
Wow. Well, I think I had an exceptional childhood. I think I was very fortunate to have both of my parents in a time where most of my friends in school either came from single-parent homes or they were being raised by their grandparents. I had my parents, and I had both full sets of my grandparents. So it was like love on top of love on top of love, right? Very early on, I realized that, there was something, I'm going to say exceptional,
Okay.
all right, about me. Because my parents were in this order, my father was a police officer, my mother was a social worker. So my brother and I would get teased all of the time, and they would call him Piglet, and it was difficult. But I was the boy. There was I did not see a place for myself early on in girly things. I had an afro, I had the big old curly afro. I mixed and matched my clothing. I would wear, remember the shirts used to have like the sparkle images on them, like bicycles, motorcycles, the girl with the big afro and stuff like that. So I would wear those with the popcorn pants, and my tennis shoes would be Converses with different colors, and I would draw on them. And I found that it was difficult to interact with the girls. As a matter of fact, I remember specifically a party when I must have been about 8 years old, and I went to parochial school. So I was at a Lutheran school from kindergarten to 6th grade when I got kicked out, but that's another story. Of being at this party at a block association meeting. One of the young people had a birthday party, and I was dancing, and my father was like hovering in the background, and he walks over, and I'm dancing with the guy, and I'm leading. And he walks over and whispers in my ear, Needy, the boy is supposed to lead. And I stopped, pushed the boy back, and I said, not when he steps on my shoes. And that has been like, and then I pulled him back and continued to lead him in the dance. So I sort of kind of like have been developing that persona since then. I think that I definitely, after being taunted and teased about not being able to fit into the girly girl aesthetic, as we were growing up, I found more and more solace doing things with the boys. I was molested, and in turn just sort of like internalized that into manifesting my artist persona. I became withdrawn like around 11 or 12. And I remember specifically destroying a piece of furniture that my mother bought for me that I begged for, which was a desk. And it was plain, unfinished, just regular wood. And I did a very detailed pencil drawing of Bugs Bunny and friends playing on the crabapple tree that was outside of my window. And that became my escape. And it also sort of grew me up and protected me for a long period of time. Once I left parochial school, because I was a nerd, it was very difficult for me in public school because I was in classes that were advanced. And all of my friends, as much as I wanted to fit in with my black friends, I could not, because they perceived me as other than, because I was in special classes with all of the white kids. So it was difficult for me to fit in until I had a fight. And that sort of leveled the playing field. Seriously, yeah, which is just insane. My parents then, I think it's very important to say that before my 16th birthday, my father left the police department and became a pastor. And shortly thereafter, my mother also was ordained. And I remember at that time that I had begun to go out into the world, and like the village was heaven at that time. And I too frequented the Paradise Garage, Better Days, Pandora's Box, or the Duchess, or all of those places, right? Sanctuary. And all I remember hearing in school was stories of people being bashed, right? But this was before I started going to the clubs. And I would start to go to the clubs and I'd start to see these people that were talking about gay bash. And I'm like, well, what was that? And they were like, well, we had to justify being there, which was a deranged message, right? Because nobody asked, you know, like, where were you hanging out for, right? So my parents became pastors, and I then also began to run into the same people that I served with in church, in the clubs, and that's when I started to have a problem. Or that's when they started to have a problem, let's say that. And my messages began to get very skewed. Up until that time, I had been very entrenched in church. You know, that's how you get your allowance, because you go to Sunday school and you stay for church. And it was a part of my life. And I'm going to leave that right there because, yeah.
Hi, family. I'm Bernard McAllister. Most people know me as Bernie, Jordan, Ebony. I was born and raised in Newark. My childhood, my early years, if I could just give you an example, would be good times mixed with the Brady Bunch. Because it was the best childhood one could ever ask for in the city of Newark. I was raised by my mother, me and my sister, but we had a very eclectic family. Everybody was doing something. We had hitmen in the family. We had pimps in the family. Nice. But it was a wonderful atmosphere of, because I know it sounds strange, but it was a wonderful time. And I remember my mother leaving us with an uncle, and he was telling his hoe how to make money. And I remember, I was like, oh, so that's how you do it, you know? And I remember my stepdad coming home from being incarcerated for so many years, and he just loving me and telling me, looking at me like I was different from the rest of the kids. Like, you don't have to play baseball if you don't want to. And I remember that, and it was just a beautiful, and I was raised in the ironbound section. And at the time, it was going from Italian to Portuguese. The Brazilian wave hadn't hit yet, but it was so many different ethnic groups down there, and it was such a beautiful place to live at the time. And I remember us not locking our door, but you know, it was just a great time for me. And you know, and I had my cousin Cornell. And I need to say that he was the most influential person in my life. He was a bartender at Murphy's.
Hello.
Yes.
And I remember being 13 years old, and he told the whole family that he was a bartender somewhere else. And one day I followed him, and I had to report back to the family. And I told them, like, you know, Cornell is at this place around the corner, and you should see it. What's going on? And of course, and I was there a year later. Because I was always a very grown young man. I was never, like, people were 10, I hung with 20-year-olds. I always wanted to see what the world was like. You know, my mother had raised us to always ask questions, to be strong. And, you know, I come from a family of fighters, be it physical, mental, spiritual. We didn't take no easily. And we weren't bullied. So when I remember, I'm gonna skip around a little bit. I remember being a teenager and my sister and Cornell getting me drunk and saying, go in there and tell your mother you're gay. And I'm gonna tell you something, and this rings in my ear every now and then. I remember telling my mother she was cooking chicken. Picture this, Newark. 19-something, I can't remember when exactly, but it was early 80s. And she says, well, what you want to talk to me about? And she was cooking chicken thighs, which I can't stand.
You don't like that?
Oh, I can't stand dark meat, as far as cooking, eating. And she was cooking, and she said, well, what's wrong? I said, Ma, I think I'm gay. And she never turned around. She never skipped a beat, turning the chicken and everything. Well, she said, well, you don't want to be gay, Bernie. I said, well, why is that, Ma? She said, because, you know, gay men are never happy. And it resonated with me for many, many years. And I didn't quite understand what she meant. I said, well, I think I'm gay. She said, well, no, maybe you're just going through something.
Phase.
You know, like
Phase.
Cornell is, because they thought he was going through something too. And they're laughing on the other side of the door. And I said, why would you say they're never happy? She said, Bernie, I'm sorry. They're never happy. And that resonated with me for many, many years. And for many years, I wanted to prove her wrong and seek out being happy. Not knowing that the happiness was already there.
Right.
I just didn't know it because she had already told me. And she only went by what she saw and the family members of mine. See, we weren't the type of family to get bashed. We whooped people's asses.
Real talk.
We come up from a family of fighters, and that's what we did as groups. Mother takes off wig. So I never really had those issues where being bashed or being called anything out my name or maybe feeling less than in the family because my family was always there with me. We may fight in the house, but outside, this is my cousin, and we had a very large extended family. So when my mother raised me, she was raising 8 other cousins and like that. So when we ate, everyone ate. When somebody got new sneakers, everyone got new sneakers. And